Welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So this video here is part 2 on the 1970 C3 Corvette Stingray. So in the first video I took you guys right through all the prep work and the masking. So now we've got it in the booth. Before I did this step here, which I'm using the tack cloth and high pressure air to dust it all down, I did wipe the entire job down with Prepsol, otherwise known as wax and grease remover, just using a brake cleaner, atomizer bottle and a couple of clean cloths. So I decided to leave a fair bit of the footage of me tack ragging down because it's a very important stage to minimizing dust in your paint job. And I did only include footage of one pass over the entire job of tack clothing, but I actually did go over the entire job 3 times. When you're tack ragging, it's important that you don't push too much pressure on that tack cloth, or else you can leave a little bit of the residue behind on your panel, and you really don't want that. You're more at risk of that when they're brand new and they're real sticky out of the box. So I prefer to use these yellow ones. They've got a lot more stick in them. They seem to last a little bit longer and they seem to pick up a couple more bits of dust than what the blue ones do. The blue ones are fine. They're more designed for being a base coat tack cloth, and most of the time I actually don't even tack cloth my base coat anymore. There are some instances that I do tack rag my base coat. That's say if I'm doing a real coarse metallic or sometimes the silver or something like that. You might just want to give that blend a clean down before you clear over it, but 99% of the time I don't even tack cloth my base coat. A few other things that I do to try and keep my jobs clean. You may notice that I've got water down on the floor there, so I've obviously given the booth a really good sweep out. Got rid of all of the overspray from the previous jobs. I've then put some water around, put it down nice and even so I haven't got big puddles in there that I'm going to be flicking up on the job with the airline. There's loads of little tricks that you can do to get cleaner jobs. Just the obvious stuff first, obviously. Gloves, a spray suit, and it's 99% the environment and also coming off the car as well. So your masking is very important. Make sure that your car is really clean before you do your masking, and then make sure that you don't have any pockets where stuff is going to be blowing out of the car onto your job. But anyway, we'll start moving on to the paintwork now. We're using the Concept No Mix base coat. I'm pretty happy with the way this stuff has been performing. They're definitely the cheapest paint on the market over here anyway, that provide a full paint system that you can mix up all your standard factory colors with, and they provide clear coats, base coats and everything else you would expect from a normal paint system. I think a lot of people are scared off by the price. They think, well, anything that's that cheap can't be any good. But to be honest, I'm very happy with the way that this stuff has been performing. As you can see here, it covers within one coat. Your second coat's basically just to be sure. That's obviously going to vary on the kind of colour that it is. Yeah, obviously the reds and yellows and silvers may not cover quite as well. But yeah, all in all, it's quite a good paint system. I've used it to do some colour matching with, and they've got all the tinters that you need. And off the machine, straight off the mixer, been quite good so far. 99% of the time it just needs a little tweak here or there, and then you're right to blend, or even go edge to edge need be on a bumper bar or something like that. This colour here was just black straight out of the can. NM37 was the tinter, and it was a perfect colour match straight to the car. This No Mix base coat also goes a little bit further than most systems. From my experience, most paint systems mixed up at a 2-to-1 ratio with their base coat. However, the No Mix is 1-to-1. Well, they say from 80 to 100%. So anyway, that's going to change on climate and stuff like that. They give you a bit of variation there. You know, I guess when it's really warm, then it might be 1 to 80%, but most of the time I've been mixing it up 1-to-1 and it's been spraying quite well. It also dries nice and quick. It's not even that warm at all on this day. It would have been under 20 degrees, so around 60 Fahrenheit. I also had to sand a bit of the base coat back recently, and it's scuffed back quite easily. Some base coats go real sticky and you can't even sand any imperfections out of it. But this base coat, it dries well and it sands easy. When we were looking into getting a paint system, we had the Metalux system. Those guys weren't very kind to us, let's just put it like that. They wouldn't give us any discount, they wouldn't look after us whatsoever, so we said, mate, piss off, I don't want to see you again or your system. They were bad-mouthing the people that were looking after us, and as my dad always said, you can't make yourself look good by making other people look bad. So we had a few decisions to make as to which paint system we were going to use. Originally we were looking into getting the DuPont or Chromax system, which is a binder-based system, and it's concentrated tinters, and you can then change each tinter into either Basecoat or 2K or whatever you like. It turned out it was going to be quite a few $1,000s to get the system in though. And then my paint rep turned around to me and said, hey, look, you've got this option here. You've got Concept No Mix. And I was a little bit the same, to be honest. I'm like, you know, it's got a bit of a bad name, you know, like, it's so cheap. But we thought, look, we'll just give it a shot. So we had a respray in, and we thought, yep, give us a full kit of base coat, clear coat, and give us a primer as well. And we were just blown away by how good it actually was. So we just said, that's it, we're going to get it. We got the whole system installed for $2,000, and that's every single tinter totally full. And from there we're getting a good discount off the guy that supplies it to us as well. It's sold in the US as Transtar No Mix, although it is exactly the same paint. It's made in Australia and then sent over to the US, and a company called Transtar relabel and distribute it to the US market. I was actually having a chat to my paint supplier the other day about Concept paints, because I'm going to be doing a review and demonstration, and he tells me that they have a line called Low VOC, and it's a base coat system that's compliant with the water-based laws, so it's quite popular over in parts of America. It's an alternative to water-based, so it's not actually water-based. You still use your thinners, your normal 2K or base coat thinners, solvent-based to thin it down with. However, the VOC levels are low enough that it will comply with the strict laws in some states of the US. We don't have any of those laws here in Australia yet. Lots of shops are moving towards water-based just out of choice, but look, whether or not it's going to come in the next 10 years, I don't know. It's been talked for a long time in Australia, but I'll believe it when I see it. So you may have noticed before that the gun I'm using is the DeVilbiss SGK-600-BV with a 1.4mm fluid tip on it. Great gun. It's known as in the UK as the FLG5. To the best of my knowledge, this gun doesn't actually pass the US compliancy laws, so I don't think it's actually available in the US market. I do know I've got a few followers in the US, and if I give a gun a thumbs up, well, then they'd like to give it a shot. So if you are in America and you would like to give one of these guns a go, I've had a few guys that have bought them from eBay UK and had them sent out for a reasonable price. They're also sold in a 1.8mm setup for primer. What do I like about this gun? I like the big fan that it has on it. The price is definitely good. It's only around $180 Australian. Now I decided to leave that bit there in for a reason. That was just a little bit of thinners around the top of the lid there from when I was cleaning it out that obviously dripped onto the panel. Now, oh no, what do we do? Panic stations. Oh man, my job's ruined. It's black, solid black base coat. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to quickly wipe that off with my hand, dust a little bit more base coat over it, rather than getting the sandpaper out, sanding it down, putting more base coat on, having to wait for it to dry, and tack ragging the entire job, running the risk of getting the dust in the rest of the bonnet. I just thought, yep, I'll wipe it out, put a bit more base coat over it, and fill it up with clear. I was left with a tiny little piece of a indentation, which I was able to polish out in the clear coat. Would I do it on any colour? No, absolutely not. Most solid colours you'd be pretty fine. However, any metallics you'd want to be a bit careful doing it. A really dark metallic, so say if this just had a little bit of pearl, or if it had just a little bit of silver in it, then yeah, you'd want to be careful. I might just have decided to wait for a minute, scuff it back, dust a few coats on, and then continue on with the job. One thing that you may have noticed, there's also a little bit of shrink back coming through these panels, and what that was is the 1K primer. And hey, I'll admit when something's not good, if it's not good, and that is the Concept acrylic primer. Some brands have acrylic primers that are good for just shooting over a little bit of a cut through, but look, once this litre can has ran out. I won't be replacing it with the same one. We're going to have to do a few more tests with some different acrylic primers, because look, in the real world it's not always possible to go and put 2-pack primer over every little cut through. It takes too long to dry, and yeah, it takes a bit of extra time to clean the gun out and stuff like that. But on a job like this, I was also able, like you can see there on that pop-up headlight there was pretty bad shrink back around those spots, and all that was just a little bit of 1K primer, so definitely not good. But yeah, being that it's black, it's also quite forgiving with stuff like that. You weren't able to see it once it was finished off in the clear coat. It did shrink back a little bit, which we were then able to polish out anyway. I apologise about some of these camera angles. It's a little bit hard to see what I'm doing, but I hope I'm keeping you guys interested by taking you guys through the job. It's little stuff like that which DIYers may not know, so I decided to include those little bits of info. Hope you guys do appreciate my vids. I have dedicated a big part of my life in the last year and a half to this channel, and I think it shows in my videos. I do take a lot of time and effort in making these videos, and I do love spray painting, so it's great to be able to share my passion of this trade with the world, especially when you get the chance to work on a car like this, which was my dream car. My whole childhood I had one of these as a toy car. Had the Hot Wheels cars that we used to race, and I had a model car that I built and all painted by hand myself with a brush. That's the one that I'm still not sure if I've quite forgiven my dad for knocking off the mantelpiece and smashing. So we're just about there with this video. I thought I'd give you guys a quick run through the settings I'm using on this gun. So full fan. I've also set the pressure at about 20 psi, give or take. That may go up or down depending on the weather, but on this day it was about 20 psi. And the fluid is wound just about right out, so it's just in a couple of turns. Now the fluid on this SGK is probably the only real downfall on it. It feels like it's got a bit of a tighter trigger pull than say the GTI. To be honest, I would give this gun the #1 position in the spray gun market because of its price. So there are better guns out there, but being that it is such a decent price, I would just about give it the #1 spot. I use it all the time. It's my workhorse. It's my go-to gun for Basecoat. If I'm ever doing something in 2K or insides, or so I'm edging some panels up, I'll use it for clear coat inside there, and it really gives me good results. So here we go. I'm just giving you guys a bit of a before and after on this car. This is how we got the car in this condition. It had basically been written off. The owner obviously had an accident in it. He was paid out through his insurance company. He's then sourced or found an extra front end to put on it. So he's done the fiberglassing to join the front end on. He did do a bit of the body repairs, but he just got to the point where he sort of knew he wasn't able to get it right up to the standards that he wanted it to, so he found us and he bought the car in. It was definitely a pleasure to do this car. I'm very glad that he did find us, and glad that I was able to bring this car back to its former beauty. Now the owner, he just was doing most of the job himself, so he's doing all the dismantling and fitting back up, but we did give the entire car a full cut and polish. We went, cleaned it up on the inside and all that, and gave all the chrome work a bit of a polish up. So we're still in contact with the owner. Hopefully he'll bring it back down once he's got all those headlights back in and the bumper bars back on. So stay tuned for the next video, which is going to be the clear coat stage. Check out these two vids here at the end if you haven't already seen them. Thanks for watching, and this has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.